Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to my behind-the-scenes, no players allowed, DM-only live stream crafting the Golden Vault, in which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of keys from the Golden Vault. If you are playing characters Cherie, Elowen, Daisy, Tavine, or Vero, this stream is not meant for you, because it'll be full of spoilers, but the rest of you are always welcome. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube most Fridays, although not this Friday. You can join our official Discord server with the invite link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson, as well as shop at Noble Night Games via my affiliate link. For a campaign, we use Roll20.net. For streaming, I use OBS Studio. It is Thanksgiving week here in the US, so a lot of kids are off right now. A lot of adults are still working, which is always an awkward situation. My folks had the kids over at their house, so they were always pleased to go to Gammy and Gampa's house for the day and be able to hang out, which was nice. And it has been very thunderstormy and rainy and really just shit weather outside. But that doesn't affect D&D, so we can talk about that. As you can see, we're actually looking at Talkworth's Clockwork still. I mean, I guess we could talk a little bit more about Stygian Gambit. I do still call this one Stygian Gambit. The players did make some progress last time, which is nice. I don't know how much more. I guess we can talk about how to. Well, yeah, I guess they made a lot of progress. We can go back and talk about it. But real quick, these are the maps from the Tessa's Presents, which is a map maker that I use for our Dragonlance campaign to very nicely. I love these maps, and I love the quality of it, and the art style, and the fact that it fills in all of the gaps that I need when it comes to needing maps for all the different battle scenarios. So I'm starting to plug those into my map right here, because the Clockworks scenario is a little more unique compared to every single other adventure in here, I believe. I say that, but I don't remember entirely. But to where it's the heist map that you're given is actually just a map of the town, where every square is like a 25-foot square or something. So it's not something you can actually use as a battling, moving tokens around kind of a map, even though it is a cool map. It's a much different type of scenario. So what Tessa's Presents does is provide basically maps kind of like around half of each island that I've found, which is fine. The smaller ones, Halfway Isle, I think we get the full map on, which is a really cool looking map right here. Very awesome with the lava and everything. And then the other ones are kind of half maps, I believe, which it still covers a good chunk and covers the interior of the buildings, which is also very nice. They're a little small, but they're not nearly as small as the maps that are on the original, which is very, very tiny. And because they're in their own space, not on any other maps, they feel even smaller, because the party can't even like walk around the building or do anything in there. It's just literally the interior of that map. So it may be that we don't have to use a lot of these small maps. We'll probably end up having to use some, but I would like to use most of them with the Tessa's Presents maps. The only one that I was already fiddling with is the entrance map, because I figured the town hall will be a place the players will definitely visit, and the map actually cut off. You can see where the art changes right here. So I actually took another map and put it on the bottom, and I'm going to plan on having that be more of the lower half. It doesn't exactly fit perfectly, but we can kind of fix that with dynamic lighting. Mainly, I just wanted a little bit of, because if I want to have a nice encounter with where the players are either entering or leaving the town hall, then I don't want the map to like end right there, because it's kind of weirdly awkward and reminds me of, like, invisible walls in games that are not open world, where you've got just very tight spaces you have to fight in. But before we talk more about Talkworths, why don't we go back to the Stygian Gambit. We're really hoping we can wrap this up. Obviously, since we didn't do the session, we only did one session last week. No way we could get it done by Thanksgiving, and somebody pointed out in the chat that we'll have been on this heist for like 2 months of real time, because we just did the 5th session. So and then we're taking this week off, and then we'll be in early December doing the 6th session. I think we started this thing in friggin' October, so definitely lasted longer than I expected. But we just took some real world time off, and then the fact that this one is going to end up taking presumably 6 sessions. I hope we can finish it. Good Lord. Next time we play, I would imagine so. At this point, we've hit just about all the things. I guess we didn't do anything with the circus, which is sad, but that's just the way it goes. And then the tournament, um, I don't know, maybe we can work that out in negotiations or something, but the players technically still have the final tournament to get to. I mean, they made it to the vault a lot quicker and more, I was going to say painlessly, although I'm kind of glad it worked out the way it did, because the party ended up overcoming the challenge of the security room flawlessly. But the Bone Naga fight, which was always going to be the one forced fight in this whole campaign, ended up being really challenging because they were only a 3-person party, and I didn't do any kind of balancing with the Bone Naga, because I was like, fuck it, let's just... Because they were doing so well up to now and basically hadn't used any resources, I'm like, let's just go hard on this fight and see how they do. And they did pretty well. I mean, they survived. One of them went down. They got some low hit points. I don't know whether I would let them short... Short resting would be tricky, even though they need it. But if we, I mean, short rest takes an hour, and they're in the vault. I already mentioned that once they start looting the vault, maybe it's not when the Bone Naga is destroyed. Maybe it's when they start looting the vault that it alerts Quentin. But also, timeline-wise, it gets a little muddy because Quentin's Shuri's concentration on the suggestion spell, which was currently having Quentin be madly in love with Tavine, ended almost as soon as they entered the place, because they entered it and very quickly Shuri cast Silent Image for the dog, and that was kind of before they even got to the security room and all that. So we can pretend like Tavine had led Quentin to like the restaurant, the tournament area, or some far enough place away where the suggestion spell ended. Then he'd be like really confused about why he's with Tavine and would be like dismissive and I guess I just don't know. I think we talked about this before about how much the person who's been magically coerced would know about it. I don't think it says in the, because you know, on Charm, something like Friends, right? Is it Friends where it specifically says the person knows they've been charmed? Maybe Charm Person says that as well. But Suggestion, I don't think, has anything like that, so it might be just up to DM interpretation on whether the person knows they've been, like, magically fucked with, or they just... Or it's like... Where it's just, like, waking up, where you're just, like, really confused about what happened, and it's just, like, a blank space in your mind. I don't know. But I like the fact that Quentin was already looking for Shuri, already suspicious, and the fact that if he would be suddenly waking up, like, he doesn't remember... he's not some underling idiot. He would, I think, be savvy enough to know probably what happened. So maybe his first thing would be to immediately start checking the back rooms and the security rooms. And then the players know that when they dismissed these guys to basically be fired, if they ran into Quentin, then guess what? Quentin's going to have these two guys with them. So that's something I can definitely throw back at the players. The problem, y'all, is that since we didn't have our 2 players last week, you know, it's always easy for the DM to do all these things behind the scenes and then have this guy appear in a script, which was my whole plan initially. If you recall, we talked about this in previous crafting streams, to have Quentin appear kind of at the end of the hallway as the players are leaving. But we have half the party who was unaccounted for the last session, and in fact, Tavine was literally with Quentin, presumably. So... how do we work that into the narrative? That is something we'll have to figure out. We'll definitely have to have a scene. And yeah, I think somebody pointed out also last week, I totally forgot about the exhaustion thing, and I'll probably end up forgetting about it at the start of next session. Somebody remind me. You know where I can write the note, actually, is right after my intro. Yeah, I'm going to write that note right there. So it's exhaustion on Tavine and Sherry, I believe. Okay. Because I meant to do that last session, but I think it'll come into play the next time we play, for sure. It should come into play at some point where it's like the poison is starting to affect them, which could add a little bit of a urgency to the whole affair. So immediately at the start of the session, we have to have... Quentin, obviously, get out of the magic part of it, leave Tavine behind, I mean, Tavine can try to like attack him or something if he wants, but that would not go well for him. Rush into the back room, or actually, yeah, and meet up with the other two guys who will say like, "Sir, we just thought we left you behind," and then the three of them would definitely come into the hallway to figure that out. If Tavine and Elwyn want to figure out something they can do, they can. They all do have the earrings, right, where they can still speak to each other. I think we've only used 2. And they also have Verity, technically. I don't know what they could do with her, but if they think about it. I'm not going to let them do anything yet. I'm going to have Quentin because, again, I focused on the other 3, right? So we're going to have to backtrack the other 2. And that's going to be what, like, Quentin is already going to be aggroed and basically meet up with the other 2 and start heading into the back rooms. And then at that point, and if Elwyn and Tavine want to do something while it's going on, they can. But the others would be like busy basically fighting the Bone Naga right now, I think, because we're going to have to basically backtrack a little bit to kind of sync things up and give the other 2 a chance to respond in some way. But they do have the earpieces still available to them, so they can still communicate. They have Verity available to them. I'm still not sure what her grand plan was. They just didn't end up needing her as a distraction, I guess. But I guess they could still have her come out. I don't know how distracting it would be versus like already the distraction of Quentin being like, I need to check my security offices and do all that. And once he sees them and they say like, oh, you just fired us, I think he would be starting to figure out like, okay, there's a lot of weird magic stuff going on here. I've already clocked this one guy who looks like a wizard. And I'm going to ask about the other guys. He's basically already got them as suspicious. So the first thing they'll want to do is go to the security room in A16, where the party actually recruited Wumpus Thistledown, who was one of the card players in the tournament who was arrested in a previous session. And I don't know where I'm going with Wumpus. He certainly would have no necessary loyal to the party. And I think the party did, remind me if I'm wrong, I think Vero did lock the door with Pittons, maybe? So basically all of this means I can't really do my scripted event because the players did a really good job of covering their tracks. They put a lookout on the mirrors, and they, I believe, barred this door. Now, that doesn't mean the bad guys aren't going to be able to break their way through it. In fact, I'm not even sure that there's rules for putting these things. Am I using the right thing? Is it Pitten or is it a spike? Because this thing's not even listed in the 2024 book. What was it that Vero was doing to the doors? He was like hammering in something. Is it just iron spikes? Is that what it is? I posted a response on the other video. Did you see? Was it a comment or a live chat response, Demnix? Have Tavine and Elo witness Quentin realizing the vault is being robbed. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, it does. Yeah, okay. Iron spikes. As utilized action, you can use a blunt object to hammer a spike into wood, earth, or similar material. You can do so to jam a door shut, or to then tie a rope or chain to the spike. Which I guess is just DM job on like how do you open a jammed door, which is probably an athletics check. What that would do, which I wouldn't have them roll checks, honestly. I'm not going to do all that with DM stuff. Is it would slow them down enough to where they would be. And first of all, Wumpus has the mirrors. He'd be able to see them coming. So he'd be able to shout a warning to the party. Second of all, the door would start being like, boom, 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 like a horror movie or something as they try to break it down, which they would be able to break it down eventually, but I would give the players like, I don't know, a couple rounds worth of things to prepare and do as they want. There is no escape from this current area, so they will have to deal with Quentin at some point. And then, yeah, we've got Elwyn and Tavine still outside, so certainly interesting. Now, Quentin, I wonder if he would want to like arrest Tavine under suspicions or anything. That would be actually pretty interesting. If Tavine insists on staying with Quentin instead of just fucking off and like kind of watching him from afar or something, then Quentin would probably recognize that like something is going on with him and probably call for the guards to like grab him and haul him into the cells, which Tavine could agree to just to end up being there, or he could start a fight right there. which could be very interesting. Like all kinds of crazy shit could happen. I just got to be prepared for it. But that's the situation the party has created. There are 3 of them in the vault. They have a great watchtower or watch system for not having people come up on them, but they are very weak. And I don't know if they would have enough time to short rest, given that we still have to catch up on what the other 2 players are doing. So basically, we're going to focus on the other 2. Hopefully, they make the next session. And once they're given stuff to react, and once things happen out here, then we can go back to the other 3. If the other 3 want to just short rest, then we have to go through like a lot of scenes for the other team. And it's quite possible that they would be able to like break down the door. And I mean, I could try to work the timing out where they might just get a short rest in, but it's pretty risky. And it's too bad because this is what the short rest system is designed for, right? Is to like recharge your resources in the middle of a dungeon. But unfortunately, with a heist, it's so time critical with how you're doing everything and the fact that you're in a very active place with guards and stuff. So I mean, this is where my 5-minute short rest thing would have been really helpful as a house rule. But I think I mentioned this before when we started our 2024 campaigns. I actually took away pretty much all my house rules that I built up over the years to just start with a clean slate and see how well the 24 rules played out. I think the only ones that we've grandfathered in because it just makes sense are the leveling up hit points, where you and the stats too, where you can choose to take whatever you rolled, or you just take your average. So the average is always a floor. In other words, that's the one we really take. Oh yeah, about the suggestion spell. I do remember reading about that. Yeah, and we were kind of debating on how I want to treat that. Boils down to the spell requires magic words, obvious spell casting, unless you have subtle spell casts. Yeah. I still think that it's possible. Maybe it depends on the person also, the target, if they would recognize the fact that they were magicked and they know how magic works and all these kind of things, or if somebody just thinks like, oh man, that was crazy, I don't remember anything. And I definitely think with Quentin, he would know pretty quickly that that's what happened. And also he was already suspicious of Shuri, like I said, before all this kind of went down, of other weird, strange magic stuff going on. And then the 2 guys coming from the security room who just said, hey, we just saw you in there, you fired us, you were all crazy, would certainly confirm his suspicions. So he would be heading to the security room anyway. But also we mentioned that he's kind of supernaturally linked to the chests, and once the party starts looting those chests, then he would be alerted anyway, and he would very much know, which I guess at that point he would probably call for several more guards, which I can either bring them from the floor or kind of spawn them off camera if I need to, just to add some muscle for him, or possibly just to give Elwyn and Tavine stuff to do basically while he's still gearing up for a showdown with the party. Hopefully we don't end it. The only bummer is about these unscripted, like, real-time reactions where I can't just have them spawn at the perfect place, is because I can't just have them spawn at the perfect place, right? That was my goal, is to have them like fight in this cool long hallway, or maybe even spawn at the end of the vault, or somewhere where you would have this like, you know, cinematically interesting boss fight, instead of what probably is going to end up happening, which is like right here in this tight-ass, I guess the same hallway, with the security room in this hallway or something. But maybe, who knows what it'll bring. But basically that will be the climax. The nice thing is that is at least a worthy climax, which is the party has already bested the Naga, they've got the vault stuff, now they have to escape, and in order to escape they do have to ultimately deal with Quentin, who, as I mentioned, is not a pushover. I made him a cultist fanatic stat block with a little bit more higher HP. He has a Hellhound as his loyal ally and has a bunch of toughs as guards, but he doesn't necessarily want to fight. He wants to cut a deal because he's a smarmy casino owner and he's got to deal with the devil. And he's like, all right, look, you guys bested me. That's fine. I see now if you're strong enough to destroy my bone Naga, that, you know, fighting you would probably not be in my best interest. So we'll cut you a deal. You can take the, you know, what is it you're after specifically? Basically try and learn the fact that the party is after like a specific thing, and maybe even let them leave with a certain amount of money and the contract, and just say, you know, go back to your employers and tell them I'm not interested, don't fuck with me again, and we'll call it squaresies. And in a way, he might even think this is like Zentarum related, because the Zentarum just tried to make a deal with him, and the party could even try to work that into their angle, because he could be like, look, I thought I told you people I don't need anything. If this is some sort of test for security measures, then congratulations. You seem to have bested them in every way. Clearly, we need better security. Maybe he'd want to hire the party. I don't know. He's already trying to hire Stacey. But at this point, if they're legit robbing him, then he would just say, all right, I'll even let you guys get the fuck out of here. Mainly because I don't know if he has the muscle. Well, if he comes in, again, it just depends on how much leverage he has. I mean, for all I know, Tavine's going to put him in a headlock. And then who knows what the fuck's going to happen. Tavine will have to fight a Hellhound solo. I don't know. It's making me so nervous about all these different crazy things that can happen. Oh my goodness. And yeah, if they want to finish and that could be something he could say is like, look, you want to finish that tournament, win some more money. Don't tell anybody about the security breaches that you've experienced, and then you can walk out of here alive. Sans the money. The party can try to maybe make some checks to convince him to even take some money. I don't know. I'm willing to play ball, and he's willing to play ball even after they're trying to rob him. What he's not willing to do is if they just walk out of here with all the money, that's not going to work for him. And obviously if they, start attacking or anything, then he will certainly defend himself. And then as his final negotiating tactic, he'll say, look, if you kill me, and because maybe they'll be like, we don't, and it's funny because I kind of berated the players in their last adventure about killing people, and he's like, if you kill me, this whole place stands as a result of the contract I made. So if I die, that contract becomes null and void, and this whole place goes away. And he's technically telling the truth, but what I would probably have happen is that the whole place starts collapsing in a very like video game-ass, like load-bearing boss trope. But that would kill most of the people inside, because the players could technically jump out of the waterfall area and survive. I would give them, just enough rounds to be able to do that. But all these fucking commoners with like 10 hit points are not surviving that. And the only other way out is through this very slow-moving, lazy river, which, again, most people aren't going to be able to make it out in that amount of time. So that would kill a lot of people. So that would not be happy for Lanthashar. So the best thing they could do, I mean, maybe they want to haul his ass out of here or do something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how they want to handle it. They could just beat him up and knock him out. I don't think that would stop this from happening. I guess I don't know if there's a happy ending here. Besides the one sure he got in the massage parlor. But which I think is okay. This isn't a world of necessarily heroics like we were in previous campaigns, where he basically threatens and says, look, you need to let me keep this demon-powered casino going, because if you kill me, then everybody in here dies. I'm still providing a service, and the contracts, which he can even explain that to them, like the contracts are there as a last-ditch effort for folks who are indebted to the house, and they must be able to pay somehow, so they pay with their service. Which is like their literally indentured servitude via these like fiendish contracts. I'm willing to have a conversation though with the players and see where they come up with that. I'm also willing to have a combat battle. We can definitely do another epic fight with these stat blocks, and the party may not want to throw down with that given their current low health situation. I wonder if Elowen is going to want to check in on the animals, because I did have a circus performance going on right now, which would probably be what's happening, and that might make things more interesting if she wants to try to rescue the animals. But she will also be literally on her own unless Tamine decides to, for some reason, go help her, I guess. And they can just be doing this whole side project. Which, I don't know, the animals would cause some chaos and distraction, although Quentin, at this point, would have his eyes on the vault, I would assume. I guess it depends if the players have started actively robbing the vault, or if they're just chilling out in here for now, trying to discuss with the others. Witnesses, we're also going to start getting around about who they are. Yeah. After he lets them leave, it would make sense if he has them followed to find out who hired them and where they work out of. Maybe later send someone after them. You know, at the very beginning of this scenario, I was thinking that maybe he would even be following Verity with like an imp or something, spying on her and seeing if what problem she was getting to. But then I think I realized that that would give him way too much information, allow him to be like one step ahead of the players, which is typically the opposite of what heists end up doing, which is that the players are actually a step ahead of the villains to allow them to accomplish said heist. Or usually the heist, like you think the villains are one step ahead, but it turns out the players are two steps ahead or whatever, you know, bullshit thing is going on in that heist. As written, he doesn't really have any supernatural stuff. I've given him a lot more. The one thing he has is he can summon spine devils. Sorry, he can summon spine devils. I guess as part of his contract. But I've kind of turned that into he just has a hellhound companion, which seems more interesting. And the fact that I can tease it for this long. I assume the players know what this thing is. Because I've been teasing it for so fucking long. The fact that he's got this large black dog and he's got this whole fiend thing going on. Not that it's like a super impossible. I mean, it's a CR3. It just kind of adds another meaty stat block to the whole thing. Quentin living is dangerous for the party. I agree. Yeah. And it's something I could think about. The thing is, Quentin doesn't... He doesn't have any really grand ambitions beyond the casino. At least at the moment. Like, he's not part of a faction. He's got the fiendish backing. So, yes, you could, as a player, be like, oh, we can't let this guy live. That would be way too dangerous for us. As a DM, I'm like, I've got enough stuff going on. I don't really feel like And this guy, like, how many resources does he have, and does he really care about the party after that? He's got a pretty laissez-faire attitude about that. And he might even be willing to, like, look, you guys have caused a lot of headaches here. You've been testing my security out. Clearly, I need to ban wizards. And he'll, like, glare at Sherry. If that contract means so much to you, this one person, then go ahead and take it. Maybe he'll even... God, if I want to get really dark and serious with it, which I usually don't do, I could have him bring the brother as one of the guards. And then he could threaten to, like, kill the brother right there. Like, the other guards, like, put, like, swords to him, whatever they have. I guess they have clubs or something. That'd be pretty crazy. And he'll be like, you'll need to back off. Now, they could they do have the means to destroy the contract there. They have the one vial of holy water they can use to destroy the contract, which would at least make the brother have his senses back. Which I wonder if they would want to do that without seeing the brother or wait for that. That'd also be an interesting thing. Gosh, so many things. If you need more muscle of Quentin, call it. Anyone who needs help take down the party gets 400 chips and free shrimp cocktails. Turn the entire. Yeah, that's like the ultimate dark twist. Is like all the patrons are secretly devils in disguise. And they all just attack. I literally have like a DM waiting room of extra guards if I need to spawn extra ones. But I need to be careful about that because they're not the most fun. They only have like the one attack in 2024. They have a ton of hit points. You know, they're really defensive bodyguards. And he's already got a decent stat block with his Hellhound. So I need to be careful about just spawning more guards off scene. But there are guards wandering around, guards wandering around the casino floor. He could take in a few with him as additional muscle. I'm thinking I could easily have 4. Just these 2, including Garrett, and the 2 from the security office, plus him, plus the Hellhound. That's a huge battle for the party to deal with. One they may not be able to survive unless they're able to short rest, which, again, we talked about how I'm not sure they would have time to short rest, given the fact that we need to catch up with the other events outside of the vault area. The fact that Cherie dropped concentration basically right at almost near the beginning of that session. So that would give Quentin a lot of time to come into his senses and immediately start calling guards and getting this shit going. So a lot of potential things could happen. next time. I'll probably have to revisit it because we're not going to do it this Friday, so I'm probably going to have to revisit and talk about all this stuff again anyway to replenish. So for now, why don't we just continue talking about Talkworth's Clockworks, and then most likely next week for more crafting, I'll go back and revisit more Stygian Gambit and make sure we're all lined up. I would be very confident that we will finish this next time, because that's the only real I mean, obviously, Tavine and Elowen are the biggest question marks in terms of what they're going to do. But that's mainly the last question mark, is Quentin confronting the party, having this conversation, possibly having a battle, possibly not having a battle, possibly just doing a big tense conversation and then the party is walking away. Like, all that could technically happen. But in any case, even if we have a big battle, I guess the way it would take the longest amount of time is if we have a big conversation, eventually devolves into a battle, and then the battle ends up taking a while. But in any way, shape, or form, we are going to finish this fucking this mission next time we play. Even if it's like we have to stop right after the battle, and then the next session we have to do like falling action, and then do our level ups, and then our bastion turn, and essentially it ends up as an epilogue, and then we don't even really hardly start the next one. But it needs to end because it'll have been like 6 freaking sessions, which is crazy. All right, so Talkworth's, I think the start of it, I'm going to change to using Nyx instead of the mayor, because I like the idea of it being just, well, not the mayor, I guess, who's going to get the golden key and meet with the party, which Nyx is from one of the Underdark encounters. As a deep gnome named Nyx Riddlestone is on the lookout for adventurers heading to Little Lockford. Nyx speaks Common, Gnomish, Terran, and Undercommon. Greets the characters curtly and offers to escort them to Mayor Broadfoot without delay. So instead of that being an Underdark encounter, I'm just going to use that NPC as the person who, I guess, drew the short straw and had to go all the way to the surface to seek help. Or maybe she was given the key. Who the fuck would give her the key, though? In the Underdark, because I think the key is always delivered by courier. Maybe different scouts are sent out to look for help, and she ends up going all the way to the surface. Maybe she fell asleep in the Underdark and woke up with the key and the note next to her, and the path. That's pretty mysterious. And then the path led her to the surface. I think I mentioned before, but are there ways to get from the Underdark to Waterdeep without much issue? Hopefully, because I'm trying to figure out how a deep gnome from the Underdark would end up at Trench's office. But she was given a note and a key and told to come to this location, and she's the one who arrives, and then she'll be able to explain the situation, and then the golden key, I think, will basically say the same situation, which is that the kind of overseer, security officer, or whatever, named Tixie Talkworth, built a bunch. She was a mechanical genius. She built a bunch of clockworks to help defend the town from Underdark monsters. And then what I'm going to do, because there really isn't a good backstory here, she just kind of slowly goes crazy, is I'm going to say that she was injured, maimed in an accident at some point, and she lost her arm. And because she was a mechanical genius, she replaced that arm with a whole mechanical, cyborg piece to it. And that kind of got her thinking, and I think there's a mental disorder about this too, where you want to cut off your own limbs or something fucking crazy. Some kind of disassociative thing. Not that I want to turn my villain into somebody suffering from mental disorder, but what I'm thinking of is that she cut the limb off. She considers it an upgrade after she did that and kind of built herself this really powerful arm. And she's like, okay, this is actually a good thing. And then she got into that whole thing of just replacing parts of her body with mechanical parts. And that kind of led her down this dark path. She started losing a lot of her humanity. And eventually she started seeing that this is just pure upgrade. Clearly everybody else needs this too. And so she starts sending her clockwork people, defenders, to go and maybe grab people and bring them so that she can, hack them up and upgrade them and all that. Townsfolk are very much not a fan of that. They rise up. They tell her like, "Hey, this can't stand. This is not what we hired you for. This is insane." And then she basically there's a battle, and the townsfolk are forced to flee because she's got all the security forces with the clockwork. The townsfolk flee, and they manage to seal the only entrance. I guess there is one into the mines down here, but whatever. They magically seal the entrance. I guess they have mages among them with knock spells, whatever. And unfortunately, while they're safe because the town is overrun by clockworks and they can't get out, they also can't get back to their homes. And now they're like stranded in the Underdark. So I don't know what the time frame of that is, but the survivors, let's see, are regrouped outside the settlement in a nearby network of underdark tunnels and caverns. And they are hoping for someone to come in and rescue them. And so the mayor probably sent out various scouts to try to look for help from other people or settlements, even though it's Underdark, so not really many people are going to offer much help. And we'll say Nyx was one of those scouts, and Nyx had the key. The golden key was just delivered to her, some unknown means. She like woke up next to it. And that leads her all the way up to Waterdeep, to Trench's office, and there she tells them about this plight. So she would have mostly first-hand information, but she would take them back to the mayor, who can maybe give them more information, and the mayor would then actually be able to give them the map and everything. This is the one where the players are really not going to have much. They're not going to get a chance to scout this place out and do reconnaissance beforehand. And this is also a much more dangerous traditional dungeon crawl, albeit without a dungeon. It's actually kind of the Lost City thing that I actually love so much. Because it's like a big urban area, but it's completely dangerous. It's not like a normal town. But it's like all the enemy, like all the patrols are like already hostile. They're already clockwork monsters. So it feels much more like just a dangerous dungeon, which I kind of mentioned to the party at the start of this whole campaign is like, hey, some of the things you do will be like, robbing a place, like a building in town. And others will be like more dangerous exotic locations. This is one of the latter for sure. The Underdark connects to Waterdeep. This whole underground city right there. Or Skullport, yeah. Skullport and the Promenade. Okay. Yeah, Machine Cult. Okay, yeah. So they'll be able to get to the Underdark. And they'll have a deep gnome with them who can help lead them back to the city. But the Underdark is still very dangerous. I think I do have... Yeah, we've got one Underdark map we can use. I mean, I've got more I could use, I guess, but this is the one that came with that Tessa's Presents Maps thing, which you could play with dynamic lighting and put in different tunnels and stuff, but I like the tunneling part of it. And it kind of suggests some stuff using grells or hook horrors, black pudding. We'll probably find at least, probably just like the one monster encounter, I think, between them and the townsfolk outside. I don't really want to throw a whole bunch of stuff at the party, but I think that would be fine enough. I don't know which I want to use. Willing to hear. Probably not the Mimic. Although it's funny, they actually have the throne here that looks like the Mimic. The throne is on the map. I feel like Mimic's the one thing we've used a lot of. My Dragonlance players are very familiar with Black Pudding. Galabdur is fun, but it's just a social encounter, which I've already got the NPC with them, so I guess I'm leaning towards either the hook horrors or the grells, or we could use whatever monsters. As they get to the which I guess would be here, we could use a bunch of gnomes. They can meet the mayor. Mayor Braith Broadfoot also speaks common and basically tells them about the failsafe device that she's familiar with. Yeah, order an evacuation. Little Lockford is our home, and I'm determined to reclaim it. Weeks ago this happened. Jeez. Failsafe device shut down the automatons. The event of malfunction. The device is in her workshop, protected by a magic symbol on the floor that messes with the mind of any creature that sets foot on it. I don't know if I want to tell the party that. That could always be a new thing that she installed. So what that is in the workshop, there's a magical area that forces anybody who steps in it that's not her to make a save or be affected by the Crown of Madness spell, which would be a lot of fun for the party to try to figure out. To activate the failsafe, you need a security key that Talkworth keeps in a safe in her workshop. So I absolutely hate that they did this. There's this giant-ass town area, I've mentioned this before, and you put the failsafe and the key in the same fucking building. That is really dumb. I think we have to leave the failsafe in where it is because it's like on the map. Not this map. What is the map? This map. It's literally got these red arrows and stuff and says failsafe is here, which fine. It makes sense that the mayor would know where that is. I guess maybe they installed it together because, again, she didn't go crazy until after she already built all the automatons and stuff. But we don't have to put the key there. We can put the key wherever we want. We could put the key in the security center, for example, where it says it's her base. And in fact, that may be something if they think to ask the mayor, be like, yeah, most likely she's maybe has it on her or has it at the security center, which is here at the Overlook. Which the fun thing about the Overlook is if you look at this map currently, there's no way to get there. You have to use the bridges, which are all currently up, I believe is what the dashed lines means. In order to put the bridges back down, you have to go to the power station, which is, yeah, backup bridge controls here. I think the only other one is in the security center. So bare minimum, you have to make it to the turbine heights in the upper right corner in order to get to the Overlook. And then eventually you have to make it to the failsafe in Smolder Town. So I like that because it forces the players to visit like most of the locations on the map. You can totally ignore the lower left one if you want. And in fact, it literally says avoid it, monsters lurking, warehouses, nearby mine. That's fine. The only time I imagine we'll even use the lower left corner is if the party decides to ride on these buckets instead of going across the bridges. And the buckets go in a counterclockwise order. And I would love to be able to throw an encounter at the party, although I don't quite, unfortunately, have a map of just the buckets. I'm hoping I can use... none of these actually have it. Some of the other maps, I haven't put them all on here yet, do show the buckets in like a corner or something. This one does not. That's where it is, basically, I think. And I may be able to kind of jerry-rig that art and use that somehow. Because I think it'd be fun. What else? So we're going to change that. And I also like that when the party first encounters her, probably at the security center, she actually has the ability to teleport away. She has an amazing stat block. One of my favorite boss stat blocks I've seen in a long time. She's got 3 attacks, including a ranged attack that does 3d10 freaking lightning damage, plus 6 to hit. She has built-in twice per day dimension door, so instant boss escape utility. She can cast Blur on herself. As a bonus action, she can cast Burning Hands. Basically, Scalding Steam is what they call it, although it does have a recharge. And she has a force field that she can absorb 15 hit points and regains all its hit points at the start of each turn. So at the start of each of her turns, she gains basically 15 temporary hit points, which is fucking fascinating. It also ends grappled, restrained, and stunned conditions. What an awesome stat block. I love it. I'm still not going to have her be alone ever because bosses need their minions, but that is a cool-ass boss-level stat block. AC 17, hit point 75. Will definitely give her more hit points. She's a CR7. I'm excited about this unique creature, though. So the first time they encounter her, which will probably be in the security center, we can have her reduced down to a certain amount of hit points, which I believe it says in the adventure. That's how it works. And then she will teleport, she will escape, and then teleport to probably her workshop where we'll have the final confrontation. Let's see, where does it say? And then she'll probably fight to the death. It does mention, I think, that her, even though she's supposed to be mentally unstable, the party doesn't really have a way of talking her out of that or anything. Yeah, if Talkworth is reduced to 40 hit points or fewer, it's about half. She uses her next action to cast Dimension Door, then steps to the doorway into area L12. So this actually says she escapes from the workshop to the security office, which I don't think makes much sense because if they're already at the workshop, they've probably already got the key. I would imagine they would face her first when they're trying to get the key from the security center, and then when they make it to the workshop, they will fight her again. I'm excited about that situation, though. There's animated armors here. There's a shield guardian. I've talked about possibly replacing some of these construct stat blocks with other ones. We could also just use other kinds of like hook horrors. In fact, that's not a bad idea. It makes sense they would kind of model their automatons after Underdark creatures. Could we just use like the hook horror stat block and make it a construct? Just have a soldier with like sword hands. Which, that's the kind of soldier you really want walking around protecting you. Nothing but knife hands. Fuck, actually, 75 hit points is a ton. Jeez. Hook horror's always that meaty? My goodness. Wow. Or maybe I'll use like NPC style stat blocks because the constructs, I guess I can't decide if I want them to be how strong I want them to be. I do feel like we should have at least more than one type of construct that they fight because I think as written all they have are the Clockwork Defenders, which are like these hounds that have an electric bite. And then there's the Clockwork Observers, which are literally just like beacons that try to find you. Why am I not seeing any of the clockwork stuff? Where's that at? Is it planning the heist? No, it is not. The Lockford overview. Security forces, there we go. Yeah, 20 clockwork defenders and 8 clockwork observers. I feel like there should be one more clockwork stat block. I mean, the bite's really strong from the defenders. I guess using a lot of just one guy would be easy to run. And then she does have, yeah, the 2 animated armors and a single shield guardian. Shield guardian blocks the workshop. And this one is designed for level 5, so I don't have to actually change things around. Is a good boss, yeah. Also, I wish the Artificer class worked. I know. Have, like, spell-like abilities instead of just spells. But, man, 5e wizard design, wizards as in Wizards of the Coast, not Wizards of the class, just has a huge hard-on for spells. Like, everything, like, oops, all spells. Everything is spells now. Flying creep, yeah. So you could, what is it, the defenders are flying? Or no, sorry, not the defenders. The observers. So the observers are like the little like flying cameras, I guess. So I guess they don't actually attack. What I was thinking about for an encounter with the buckets would actually probably be Underdark creatures. That'd be a good opportunity, especially because they would have to go in a clockwise orders. They would have to go past the mines, and they were just warned that the mines are full of monsters, so we can definitely have those monsters come at the party, which it does say for encounters in the cave mouth area, which is the wandering monsters, there's dark mantles, Grick, and shambling mounds. Why is there a cloaker here? Is that a specific area? I mean, dark mantle I think would work too. Where is it mentioned there? L10, L11. Did I put that cloaker there? I don't think so. Oh, there it is. The mine entrances, once protected by Talkworth summons, are now unguarded. The mines are beyond the scope of the adventure. If the characters insist on exploring them, they eventually attract the attention of a wandering cloaker that tries to frighten them away with haunting moans. So it just, if they, for some reason, go into the mines, then they fight the cloaker. Cloak's a fucking CR8. All right, that's not going to be a random encounter then. That's insane. I mean, you can use its moan, I guess, but that doesn't really do anything outside of combat if you're frightened. So Dark Mantle is probably a better flying creature. Underdark is just nothing but fucking ambush bullshit creatures, isn't it? Remind me again why we're on this quest. They've got the darkness art. That's right. So the cloaker like wraps you up and suffocates you, but the dark mantle just wraps you up in darkness. Oh no, actually this one does suffocate you. Sorry. The dark mantle also suffocates. I wonder if they kept that in the 2024 version. One of the buckets is a mimic. Oops, all mimics. Dark Mantle. Oh boy. That Dark Mantle is really loving that dude. They really are just like squids, aren't they? Just flying squids. Just that's a good quote. Just assume there's no such thing as a stalactite. That's fucking funny. Yeah, same thing. Attaches to the target. Speed becomes 0. Can't benefit from any bonus to its speed. Moves with the target. I guess they got rid of the whole like suffocating thing, didn't they? Because there's not really good combat rules for suffocation. So it just... Or no, sorry, it does still say suffocating. Do I have to look up suffocating? Blinded condition and is suffocating when the dark mantle is attached in this way. Suffocation? I'm getting way off track on this crafting. Oh yeah, there are rules with it. Sturges would... Yeah, Sturges actually be a really good one too. Just a horde of Sturges coming out. Those are a pain in the ass without being like a real long fight. Suffocation. A creature holds its breath for a number of minutes equal to 1 plus its constitution modifier. Which, again, in combat basically means that suffocation doesn't matter, right? Yeah, this was my problem before also. I feel like there should be like in combat suffocation because it literally doesn't come up because combat is like seconds in a round. You have a minimum of 30 seconds before suffocation begins, which is if you had like no constitution modifier, or like a negative one, I guess. Which 30 seconds still gives you like, what, 5 or 6 rounds of combat? And even then, when a creature runs out of breath or is choking, it gains 1 exhaustion level at the end of each of its turns. So you don't even like pass out or anything, you just gain an exhaustion level. So, yeah, that's a pain in the ass. Doesn't really come up unless you're at a combat. But you know what it does do is it freaks players out. Like, even if the DM knows mechanically it's not a big deal, the player's like, fuck, I have this like thing on me that's like suffocating my entire face. I'm getting like fucking face hugged. Like, this is not good. And they will start freaking out, which is always the real goal. Also, they got that cool magical darkness. I don't know if we'll use these. Although I like that they're very squishy. They're not very strong. They can still descend from the ceiling. Does it have that thing where... There was one creature where if it attached to you, and if you tried to attack it, it would deal half the damage to the creature that it's like wrapping up. Is that the cloaker? Because I always thought that was interesting. Whereas here it just says a creature can take an action to try to to detach the dark mantle with a DC 13 athletics check, which is not a gimme. Unless you're a fighter. Could be a good one. So yeah, we'll keep talking about Little Lockford. I'll keep these maps together, but a lot of it, you know, again, we try to get all the preamble, the story stuff. I think the story is going to be a lot easier to come up with in this one. We just kind of went over it about Talkworth kind of turning into this I don't know, almost Bond villain or something, where she's just taken over this whole town and there's nothing but automatons. There are a few survivors the party can meet up, which again, if they go towards the upper right corner, they will meet both groups of survivors, which will be nice. So that'll help add some little social aspects to everything. But mainly it'll be, which we may do this, is pre-roll some of the encounters, and then script some together for when the party enters and leaves certain areas about where they should have some encounters. And then also if they have a chance, if they're stealthing around, or how to work on that, basically. Like if one person's scouting ahead, does that count as them like seeing that encounter and then the party doing that? Or do we wait till the party's in there and all that kind of stuff we try to talk about there. I don't foresee this actually taking as long, I think, because there's not much more planning to do, which planning took up so much time in the other one. Once they actually started doing things, it didn't take that long for the party. But this one will have a lot more combat. I mean, we may end up with only having one combat counter in the Stygian Gambit and only one basically big one in the museum heist, compared to what this one will be, which there'll be a whole combat encounter just trying to get to this area. And then having to fight all those clockworks. There's obviously no way to talk about that. And then certainly the main boss fight with Tixie, for example. And this will be a case where there's no skin off their nose if they want to take out the boss. Like, she's unrepentant, and I don't think there's any real way to save her unless the party, for some reason, really wants to do that. I can work with that, but otherwise, this will be just kind of a... I mean, I guess people complain it's not very heist-like because you're not trying to sneak into an area, get a thing, and sneak out. Instead, you are trying to get a thing... I mean, you are giving the information. You're told, okay, you need the item, and you need to put the item in this certain place, and then that shuts all the bad guys down. So it's kind of an auto win. But you do have to make it like halfway through this area in order to accomplish that, and there will be obviously some dangers along the way. All right, folks, that is going to do it for this Monday edition of Crafting the Golden Vault. As I mentioned, I'm not going to be here for the rest of the week because it is Thanksgiving holiday, so I won't be here Thursday. We won't do D&D on Friday either. So the next time you will see me, most likely will be the following Monday for another crafting then. If you enjoy the content, as always, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. Shout out to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Brandon, Genocide, Roleplayer, Christopher, Big Nut, John, Nathan, Andrew, Stephanie, Jason, Lee Spones, Wardy, Mill, Seat, On the Eating Dogs, Marcus, Snuggie, Hugo, Sasha, John, Woman Reaver, Jealous Guy, Zim, Jesse, Dante, How About Dem, Nixon, Sharney, and Gold patrons RPG, Peppercramps, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Dead Lizard Lounge, Jerome, Nathan, Scott, Rivers, Jerry, Glenn, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support. Have a wonderful holiday season for those of you that are doing the Thanksgiving thing, and I'll see you next week.